Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Hi, Rob Tawab La'atam, which is good evening unto you all. I'm knocking on Waha'i Bar Sha'ale with the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, and Israelite foreigners. Nachamatam Kaya, Hamalakwat Hashemayim Kwara, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rochah Wadash, while double honors to the elders and apostles of great millstone that taught us this truth and rule well, and much respect to you bros out there pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincere shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
All right, so just as the lesson is entitled, it says Hadabar Shaw Hayawam, which Hadabar is the word, Shaw is of, Hayawam is the day or today. All right, that word is going to be Chaadad, and it says sharp or to sharpen. And we go ahead and start with Proverbs 27 and verse 17. Baba Kusha.
God, that's the book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 17. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend.
Could you get the could you go to the Strongs? I'm gonna get the commentary for this though. And you can read it off when you get there, Baba Kusha.
So Strong's H 2300 is Chaadad. It reads to be sharp, be alert, be keen. To be sharp, be keen, to sharpen, to be sharpened.
So in the commentary, David Gusick, Proverbs 27 and 17, it says iron as iron sharpens iron. It says a piece of iron can sharpen another piece of iron, but it happens through striking, friction, and with sparks. We think of the iron of a blacksmith's hammer working on a sword to make it sharp. So a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. A man can be used to sharpen, improve, and develop, in parentheses, his friend, but it may happen through a bit of friction and sparks. We shouldn't be afraid of such and expect that true sharpening can happen without the occasional use of friction. It says the analogy infers that the friend persists and does not shy away from critical, constructive criticism. It says, gladly let us take up the bond of brotherhood. If a brother seems to walk alone, sharpen his iron by godly communication. Walk together in mutual concern for each other's infirmities, trials, and temptations. You know, we should be there for one another. That word for brother, ach or ak, goes into the ah is a strong or strength, and then the cha is a wall. So a strong wall, a strong defense, you know. So essentially, you know, as brothers, you know, we hold each other accountable, you know. That's why it says walk together in mutual concern for each other's infirmities, trials, and temptations. All right, now going back up to where it says I in David Gusick commentary to reiterate Proverbs 27 and 17, it says the analogy infers that the friend persists and does not shy away from critical, constructive criticism, you know. So essentially, you know, we're to use, if, you know, if we're in the correct spirit, we use this ultimately, you know, to build ourselves up, you know, because, you know, we're bidding ourselves to the marriage. Shalom, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah Bahasham, Chakodash Brakatah, Akya. But again, you know, we use the sharpening, all right, which again it said the friction, you know, it said friction, it said striking, and with sparks, you know, we use that, all right, ultimately to build ourselves up, you know, that constructive criticism that we receive from one another, you know, ultimately we hold ourselves accountable to that criticism. I'm gonna get this real fast. This is Zata Haryam. This is Psalms chapter 141 and verse 5. It says, let the righteous smite me, it shall be a kindness, and let him reprove me, it shall be an excellent oil, which shall not break my head. For yet my prayer also shall be in their calamities. You know, so it's ultimately better, you know, for, you know, a brother to say, hey, you know, correct this, and ultimately, you know, we should take heed, you know, to that correction, to that constructive criticism, you know, so that we can be sharpened, all right, in the spirit. Because again, we going into that word for sharp or sharpen or to be keen. You know, if you take it in terms of like fighting or something like that, you know, a lot of times, you know, people are getting there and ultimately, you know, in order to stay sharp, or your eyes have to see, you know, ultimately what's going on. You know, so and to stay sharp, you know, you're constantly being cautious, and then also you'll have somebody saying, hey, you getting the firsthand experience, you see, but then you got somebody outside the ring and saying, hey, you know, hey, you dropping your right hand, he throwing that left hook. You gotta raise that hand. When you throw that hook, come back with that counter up, that rear uppercut, or come back with your counter, your counter left hand, your counter left hook. So all of that is coming through the spirit. And it is by to ultimately help with the sharpness. To be keen, be alert. All right, in this spiritual warfare.
I said, I wanted to jump up in this Proverbs 27,
Mm-hmm.
verse 5. It reads, "Open rebuke is better than secret love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful." Because we read that commentary where it spoke on the striking, right? Because that iron, just doesn't. You can't just touch the pieces of iron together, right? Sometimes they have to butt heads. They have to remove the unwanted portions in order to get that sharpness, man, to get that edge, so that they can become honed.
Mm-hmm. Kind of how you run it back. How you run back. The definition or the word. So like the word for sharp inside Proverbs 27:17. Bible shop.
Uh, this is back in the Strong's. Uh, it's like it's a H 2300 Chaadad. It says to be sharp, be alert, be keen. To be sharp, to be keen, sharpened, to be sharpened.
Mm-hmm. So when you build this word up, because in Hebrew we don't spell words, we build words. So when you have cha, the cha goes into a wall, which that's a defense. That's something that divides. If you have a house or if you have a wall in the house that divides, one corridor or one room from the next. So it separates, it divides. Then you got the da, which the da goes into dalat, all right, which is door. And a door essentially is a connection. It's a pathway where you go in or out. All right, and there's another da in that word, which essentially that goes into a connection as well. I'm gonna read this real fast. This is the word for chad, and it says unite, sharp, riddle. It says definition. It says a wall separates the inside from the outside. Only through the door can one enter or exit, uniting the inside with the outside. All right. Which ultimately, that door goes into Yahweh Shai, John 14:6, because we're going to the word for sharp. And ultimately, how we stay sharp is abiding in Yahweh Shai. So it says only through the door can one enter or exit, uniting the inside with the outside. It says the pictograph cha or chat is a picture of a wall. The da hadala, the door, is a picture of a door. Combined, these mean wall door. I'm gonna skip down. It says chad, which this is H2297. It says one of the sum total of the whole, the two edges of a sword that meet to form one point. It says two or more coming together as unity. The sharp edge of a blade is coming together of the two to one point, and that's ultimately unison, and it also shows strength. And I actually want to get that real fast, but I'm gonna read this. The word for chadad. It says the two edges of a sword that meet to form one point. You see, so that's ultimately strength. One is equivalent to strength. You know.
Uh, hey, that's why we go through what we go through, man. To keep our edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it just around wax fat and kick? That waxing fat is getting comfortable, man. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see the results of becoming too comfortable in the society. But the Lord is putting us through these different adversities, these different trials, so that we don't lose that edge, so that we don't lose that sharpness, so that we don't lose that keenness, that focus, right? So that we don't lose that. What was it? The other Salakia.
That point, you gotta stay on point. You gotta be alert. You gotta be sharp.
Exactly.
You being in unison. Because if you sharp, you aware. You alert. Essentially that shows strength. Because again, this is spiritual warfare. So some of your best friends are is gonna be your eyes. Like when you any type of like a literal combat, but this is a spiritual combat. So your eyes are, your own eyes are good. You see, but if you have a second pair of eyes, all right, those second pair of eyes are going to be, your best friend, which, that second pair of eyes for us is the spirit, in which the Lord will use, brothers to say, hey, I see this, hey, you need to correct this, And it's ultimately upon the individual to, take heed, because by taking heed, essentially that's how we become sharp. So for example, the example we got before, in the earlier part of the video, essentially, if you was dropping that, say you was dropping your left hand, he catching you with an overhand right. You got to spiritually say, hey, all right, I need to apply this right here. You see that's essentially how, you get caught with the overhand right. That same punch. It's time to apply this right here. You got to apply this precept. And that's essentially, where the spirit comes in.
Exactly. And like you said, your corner man, right, can see things that you're doing that you might not realize you're doing.
Hmm.
So like you said, you might be dropping, your hands and not even realize you're doing it until somebody brings it up.
Right.
You can adjust accordingly.
Right. I'm gonna get this for you. This is Chaadad, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, and we'll get verse 9. It says, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor.
Mm-hmm. Right.
For if
I was like, you
God,
can finish. You can finish up.
God says, for if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not easily broken.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, hey, when you got brothers of like mind, around you, that energy, multiplies itself, man. You know that that sharpening occurs, right? That heat, the spirit, right, continues to grow, in all these things. So like I said, two is better than one, man. Right? You can only, right, there's a level of growth that happens in solitude, but you can magnify that, right, through another, man, because
Hmm.
you can't always see your flaws, man. You can't always see where your missteps are. That's where the Lord will bring somebody in, to point those things out, and in pointing that out, it's not gonna feel good,
Hmm.
but that's where that sharpening comes from, because in order to sharpen the blade, you have to do what? You have to remove, material, right? And that's that unwanted material that the Lord is removing from us, man.
All right. Because when you sharpen the blade, like you said, it knocks off, the dual edges, and then it becomes, it becomes better, because you sharpen in both sides, and that's why, this word has a relation to achad, which means one, because the chad means to sharpen, to come to one point. You see, but you add the ah on the beginning of that word, it becomes a strong sharpening. You see, so because it's strength in the number one, all on the same accord. If it's divisions, all right, that's essentially, how you would break something down. All right, we see that from, the curses, but by all of us coming together, all right, pursuing to, how the Lord is gathering us by Yahweh Shai. All right, essentially that shows strength. I'm gonna get this real fast. This is Ezekiel chapter 37, and we'll get verse 15. It says, the word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick. All right, and this word for stick, it says itazah. All right, and it says the root word itazah, it says to fasten or to make firm. All right, so that word itazah has a connotation of, something that's firm. So if something is firm, that means that it has strength. So going back, it says Ezekiel 37:16, it says, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions, which, Judah goes into the southern kingdom. All right, and then Ephraim goes into the northern kingdom. And it says, and for all the house of Israel, his companions, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. All right. And it says, I'm going to go down to verse 19, and it says, verse 18, it says, and when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not shew us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, thus saith the Lord power, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, all right, talking about northern kingdom, and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. All right, so ultimately going into that, that gathering, together, you see, because if we scattered, all right, it's no strength in that. All right, it's no unison in that. All right, and it's no brotherhood in being divided. You see, ultimately how we're able to. I'm gonna get this. All right, this is Isaiah 52 and verse 1. It says, "Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean." So it said, "Awake, awake, put on thy strength." It's talking about this truth. You see, and ultimately, how we're able to put on the strength is coming together as one. That's why the scriptures say Isaiah 34 and 16. I'm gonna get that real fast. This is Isaiah 34 and 16. It says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. From my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them." You see, so the elect was gathered by this word. All right, all coming into one. You know, and again, that shows strength. Could you get Baba Kushal? Could you get Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 12? I'm gonna get First Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 10. This is First Corinthians chapter 1. We'll get verse 10. And it says, "Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, that ye all speak the same thing." All right, going back to this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, rightly dividing the word of truth. It says, "And that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment." All right, and where is all of this taking place? All right, by means of this truth. That's essentially how we're arising and departing. All right, that's essentially how we're coming together. That's essentially how we're standing, and we're standing in strength.
Mm-hmm. God. So Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 12. "For the word of the Most High is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart."
So it says the word of the Most High is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword. You see, this word is likened to a sword as well. You see, because it can cut those that's being spoken to. You see, but then also it can cut us as well. So that's why the scriptures say that we have to examine ourselves. Going back to the precept we got in Mashal Proverbs 27 and 17. Iron sharpeneth iron. You see, and ultimately, again, if we in the right spirit, we would take that sharpening. Because if you have a blade that won't be sharpened, that's not really a good blade. You need a blade, to be keen, to be alert,
Right.
to do what you need to be done, to be utilized. All right, if it can't be sharpened, if we can't be used, we no good.
Right. That tool is a tool of no use.
Mhm.
And we're all tools of the Lord. Right? The prophets are being used by Yahweh Shem Shah to deliver this message. And if we're not sharp, if we're not keen, right? If we're not on our watch and aware of things that are going on, right? Aware of the proper breakdowns of the scriptures, right? Aware of the news events that are taking place, or even in our personal lives, man, right? If we're not, on top of things, right?
Mhm.
Spirit is on, brothers, to make sure we're getting our houses in order, right? Because we see those days ahead. But if we're not doing that, right, we're unfit, for use by Yahweh Shem Shah, man.
Right. Con. Did you have a precept, bro?
Um, I got a definition real quick.
Con, you good?
So this is the definition of what it means to lose one's edge. And it says to lose skills, conviction, or energy that helped make one a success before. And this is why we go through what we go through, is to maintain that edge, right? So we can do what? Keep those skills, keep that conviction, keep that energy, right? That's making us successful in this ministry, man, right? And continuing to grow in that, man.
Because when you put that in a literal sense, you lose that edge. That mean you get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand what the scriptures say. Roughly paraphrasing, the Lord is going to come back and destroy those that are settled upon their lees.
Exactly.
Settle on their watch.
Mm-hmm. They're not watching. They're not sharp. They've
Mhm.
gotten dull.
I got this though. This is Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 10. It says, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord." All right, there go that word strong. Because achad, the word for one. All right, it's ultimately related to Chaadad. All right, and that the two have the letters Cha and Da, which means to be sharp. But it said be strong. So that's synonymous with saying be one. It says, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. Put on the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." Now that word for wiles goes into cunning, trickery, craftiness. Because the scriptures say that this devil ultimately has a right hand of falsehood. So everything that he does is essentially relying on deception. You know, so it says, verse 12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." All right, because we mentioned the term of literal combat, but this is a spiritual warfare. All right, I'm gonna run that back. Verse 12, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." This isn't a carnal type of fight. It says, "But against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." All right, so this is a literal spiritual warfare. In which the tools that we have are ultimately goes back to this word to the scriptures. So it says, "Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of the Most High." You're not going to go into a any type of battle, or you don't have your rifle. You don't got your sidearm. You don't got no blade. You don't got your Kevlar. Your your assault stuff.
Right.
You come fully equipped. So with that being on a carnal tip, how much more so for this word. So it says, "Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth." It says, "And having on the breastplate of righteousness." So ultimately, ensuring that our inward parts are dressed are in truth. So it says, "And having on the breastplate of righteousness," which what will make us righteous in these days, faith corresponding with the works, you know. And it
Mm-hmm.
says, "And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace." All right, which the scripture say in Matthew the 5th chapter, blessed, roughly paraphrasing, "Blessed are the peacemakers." We're to be peaceable, which the scripture also say, be at peace if possible, be at peace with all men. All right, continuing on, verse 16, it says, "Above all, taking the shield of faith." Papa Kushak, could you hold Psalms 149 and 6?
So,
But Ephesians 6 and verse 16, it says, "Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High." So ultimately, that the sword, all right, goes back to the word.
mm-hmm. That's Psalm 149 and 6. Let the high praises of Yahweh Shemel Rashad be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand.
And again, to reiterate, that two-edged sword goes back, to the scriptures. Have to rely on the scriptures. Meditate on the scriptures, live the scriptures. Walk in the scriptures. Because this is ultimately how we remain sharp, or this is how we maintain our strength.
Mm-hmm. If I could read this real quick. This is the free dictionary with the definition of keen. It says, having or marked by intellectual quickness and acuity. Jumping down, it says, of sight, smell, hearing, etc., capable of recognizing fine distinctions. So just, you know, being alert, right? The spirit has given us that alertness, right? This is that, how the scriptures talk about the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, right? Understanding the will of Yahweh Shem Shai, right? That, like it says here, the high praises of the Lord be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand. This word is giving us that acuity, right? That mental quickness, right? That we're gonna need to avoid these fiery darts that we face on a day-to-day basis. And as these things start to intensify, right, that spirit is gonna allow us to dodge these things even more.
Hmm. And that's ultimately because we took up that rebuke, that constructive criticism to build ourselves up, to make us the tools that could be used by the Lord.
Uh,
But going back to that, could you go down to verse like hold on, let me go back to that. This is Psalms 149 and verse 5. It says, "Let the saints, which the saints are the Israelites." It said, verse 5 is Psalm 149 and verse 5. It says, "Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand." All right, ultimately going back to the scriptures. It says to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all the saints. Praise ye the Lord. All right. And ultimately, it says to execute upon them the judgment written. All right. The judgment written, all right, upon the heathen, goes back to the scriptures, Revelation 13, verse 9 to 10. All right. Isaiah, the 14th chapter, Isaiah 14 and 2. All right. Isaiah 14 and 21. Those that essentially enslaved, the children of Yasha'Allah are going to go into captivity. All right. Edom's hegemony is going to be destroyed. All right. And ultimately, under the Lord Yahweh Shai, we're going to rule these nations with a rod of iron, you know. And it all starts, with being sharp, Chaadad, being keen, being alert. All right. Essentially, staying ready so we don't have to get ready.
exactly. I got one for you real quick. This is Ephesians 5:15. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. So
Hmm.
walking circumspectly, going to circumspect, going to see, right, or to look or watch, right. So pay attention to your surroundings, man. Right, understand what's going on around you, and the spirit, like we've been going into, right, the chastening that we face, the iron sharpening iron from brother to brother, right? This is, sharpening our senses to what's happening in the world, man. So that we can understand these things and be able to break them down through the scriptures, right? So that we're not taken unawares, man.
Right. And I got one just lying back and off you see, because the elect ultimate is going to be circumspect, circum going into circle all around, spec going into C. The elect is going to see 360. All right, just in the spirit, you see with 2/3, uh, they're subscribing to ignorance is bliss. They want to be oblivious, to the stuff that's going on. But this is Luke chapter 11 and verse 23. It says, "He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad." All right, because the Lord is in the process of gathering, all right, making the nation strong, starting with the elect. You see, again, with the elect subscribing to, being circumspect with 2/3, all right, they're being, if uncircumspect is a word, that's ultimately what they're doing. And
Exactly.
ultimately, by doing so, by being in that ignorance is bliss type of mindset, being in that gross darkness, essentially, that they're in the mindset of scattering. All right, and that brings confusion, and that's essentially why they have to be destroyed on this side. But I'm gonna get this too, if you can. This is Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 32. Um, I'm gonna start at. Should I start at 23, 22, and that'd be it. If you ain't had nothing else, bro.
Kind of.
Con. This is Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 22. It says, "How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity?" I'm gonna get this word for simplicity, and it says, "Patya." It says naivety, simplicity, open-minded. It says silly, seducible. All right. Again, going into the ones that's not, paying attention. Those that are easily that fall for anything. It says, and the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. It says, turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. All right. And essentially, again, the elect is going to take that sharpening, with 2/3. They don't want to be sharpened. They want to be those useless tools, those useless eaters. All right. What the so-called elites call them. But it
Exactly.
says,
Hey, if I could add to you real quick,
mm-hmm,
the scriptures talk about how correction is grievous to them that have forsaken the way,
mm-hmm,
right? And that correction is what makes us sharp, right? So those who have forsaken Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, forsaken the way of righteousness, right? They're ultimately, not being sharpened for these times to come.
right, because we ultimately in the like you like to go into, bro. We're in Godship training, you see, and then also right now we got the training wheels on. You see, when the in Jacob's trouble, we're going to have to ultimately use the things that we were doing in practice, all right, for game day, you
Right.
know. And if you don't want to correct the things that you was doing, hey, we seen, Deontay Wilder, spinning around in the ring. You see, that's what he did in practice. You see, well, when the fight came, that's exactly what he did. You gonna have dudes looking like that. We want to do everything in the correct fashion. You see, so that we don't have any we don't have any excuses, explanations. We want to do the things that we need to do and get it done in the correct way.
Yeah.
But this is back to Proverbs 1:23. It says, I will, in the latter, it says, I will make known my words unto you, because I have called, and ye have refused. All right, because the Lord calls by his men. All right, and that's the correction, that we was talking about. It says, I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. All right, pursuant to, Zechariah, the 7th chapter, how they pulled away the shoulder. It says, but ye have set at naught all my counsel, and with none of my reproof. It says, I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. All right. And ultimately, how they set at naught the Lord's counsel, all right, is, misusing the prophets, because where the prophets are sent here, for the compassion. All right. Ultimately, 2/3 is misusing the grace period, you know. So it
Exactly.
says, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as a desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. You see, because this word has a expiration date, you know.
Right.
And it says, for that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, they were none of my counsel, they despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. All right, going back to the term ignorance is bliss, essentially, those in the congregation of the day, 2/3, they find that way prosperous. Not knowing what's going on, not wanting to watch the news, not wanting to be aware of the times that we live in, that's prosperous to them. You see, and that gives them good pleasure. You see, but that way that they feel as if is benefiting them, or ultimately that's going to be to their detriment. That's going to destroy them. You see, because it's word for prosperity. It says, Shawwa H7962. It says quietness, ease, prosperity. It says security, genuine or false. All right, so 2/3 they have a false sense of security, and it's ultimately going to be their downfall. Verse 33 says, "But whoso hearkeneth unto me," because again, Proverbs 27:17. We're gonna keep reiterating it because, all right, those that receive of that correction, that receive of that smiting, pursuant to Psalms 141 and verse 5, all right, are those that's hearkening unto the Lord. You see, because the Lord speaks through men. So it says, but whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from the fear of evil. You see, so those that are ultimately listening to the Lord are going to be sharp, are going to be good, come fight night, game day, that
Right.
that spiritual game day, that spiritual fight night.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so like,
Mhm.
I was just gonna add, to that point, right? We're in practice mode right now, man. You know, And we're doing the walkthroughs. We're going through so-called going through the motions, right? But there's the quote. You practice how you play, right? So that's why we stay on top of things because we know, right, that once we get into the heat of battle, the heat of the game, these things are going to be second nature to us, man.
Right. But Con, I got one more, then we go ahead and close behind that, bro.
Uh,
Con, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 10. It says subtitle. It says whatever your hand finds to do. It says Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. It says whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might, for there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. All right, let me get this in the NLT. And it says, whatever you do, do well, for when you go to the grave, there will be no work or planning or knowledge or wisdom. You see, so ultimately, all those reps, each and every rep should be done like, with full intention to do it the correct way, you see, because we're building those muscle memories. You
right.
see, because ultimately, we got to perform. You see, so we want to do each and every rep as if it's the last rep, but then also being grateful, that we're able to do this work. You see, so showing that we're grateful, we need to be doing it the correct way and ultimately receive of that correction and correct constructive criticism to be sharp.
Uh,
But yeah, that was all I had, bro.
God,
Conway, I don't want to Zaza by night. Lord's Wood. That was a beautiful edification through the spirit. While I don't want to Zaza, Atham Yash Layala Tawab, Lord's will. You all have a good night. While we can go ahead and close it up by saying, Call Layim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rochahagodash, while double honors to the elders and apostles of great Muslim that torch this truth and rule well, and much respect to you, bros, out there pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincere. Shalom, shalom.
shalom.
Highlight Tawab, shalom.